Everyone, welcome to the podcast. Today we are joined by Bruce Kintner, who is the director of Samaritan Car Care Clinic. Bruce, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for having the Samaritan Car Care Clinic on the NKY podcast.
Yes, so you guys fill a very vital hole in services in our community, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But just take us through how Samaritan Car Care Clinic got started.
Well, hopefully the story will resonate with some of the listeners and viewers. This actually began back in 2007, all volunteers, and no, I cannot take credit for the original idea, kind of run with the idea, but the original idea came from a minister at a church in downtown Covington, inner city. That church does an awful lot of community meals, outreach programs. That minister, his name is Sinamuthu Simon, said, Bruce, you're mechanical, we got to figure something out. We have some low-income single moms coming to the community meals that are served, free meals every Monday night, Wednesday night. Most don't have cars, but the ones who do, they're desperate for tires, brakes, they need oil change. He basically said, what can we do? And so that's how we began, Sarah, truly just as an all-volunteer organization offering free oil changes. We didn't hang out a shingle and say, come get a free oil change. From the very beginning, we began working with developing a network of partners, social service agency partners. We went early on to the Head Start programs, Women's Crisis Center, which has now evolved into ION Center for Violence Prevention, what's evolved into Life Learning Center, places like that. That is literally how we began.
That is very cool. And you serve a lot of types of people in the community, but there is a very specific client base that you guys are really helping out. So tell us about that client base.
Our clients, and Sarah, it's a very good question. Our clients are basically the clients of these social service agency partners. Brighton Center, for example, is one of our larger sources of, we'll call them inbound referrals. Brighton Center does a fantastic job at training mostly, sadly, low-income single moms, trying to help them get better job skills so they can lead a better life for themselves and their children. So, for example, we were able to help 315 low-income families last year in 2022. Just over 70% were single moms. And so that we aren't necessarily seeking single moms to serve only, but it's the agencies that we partner with or count on the Samaritan Car Care Clinic having funding to be able to help these ladies. They're the ones who see these single moms.
Yeah, and we talk about the whole, and we mentioned this before we kind of popped on here and started filming, is that these people who are, like you said, trying to find a better lives for themselves, they're needing to go to jobs and they have these cars that maybe aren't in the best shape, and then they come to you. So tell us about that whole process. You know, sometimes they come in for brakes or they come in for tires, and then it's a whole thing.
Well, again, very, very good question. And it leads to the classic can of, you're opening this can of worms. So a very common referral, Sarah, is for tires. You have a low-income single mom going through job training or has hit a crisis point and has reached out to a St. Vincent de Paul or a Welcome House, or maybe she's at Lincoln Grand Scholar House, again, trying to go to school and better. The referral is for tires. So we get the car in to either our soon-to-be-open shop downtown Covington or one of our network of referral clinics. We have repair shops. We have 7 different shops. The referrals for tires, but Sarah, it is rare that it's just tires that the car needs. The sad fact is that the families, again, mostly single moms being referred to the clinic, they're having to choose between rent and groceries every single month. Scrape money for fuel to get to jobs, get to doctor's appointments for the kids. Maintenance and repair is not in that equation.
Yeah.
So the cars are pushed way too hard. They're pushed way too far. So the referral from Brighton Center or another agency is for tires. But it does no good to put 4 new tires to invest. We're wanting to be a hand up, trying to help these ladies. It does no good to put 4 tires on a car that can't come to a stop because the brakes are shot. So that's how we average well over $1,000 a repair, because it needs tires, it needs brakes, and the radiator's leaking, and we want to try to make it safe and reliable.
Right. And that is the biggest part, is the safe and reliable transportation. And one of the things that I think is really unique, and you've mentioned so many community partners in our short conversation that we've had. Tell us about those partnerships that you have here in the community.
Well, the social service agencies that are in Northern Kentucky, they're beyond fantastic. They do a tremendous amount of great work, unfortunately, because there's also a lot of need. What all those agencies and more simply lacked was an outlet for help with anything related to transportation. Those agencies and more do a great job on housing, job training, medical care, child care, drug addiction treatment. But where's Sarah's transportation and all that mix? That's this niche, this unmet need that we have kind of figured out going, there's no one else doing this. And so those agencies, they now just simply, oh, we have someone who needs help. Let's call the Samaritan Car Care Clinic and see if the clinic has enough funding to help. So again, those partners are fantastic. St. Vincent de Paul of Northern Kentucky, for example, all the help that they do with rent assistance, utility assistance. But who do they need to help? Who do they count on? This partnership with the Samaritan Car Care Clinic. And we gladly do it because they and the others do great work.
Right. And you had mentioned that you guys have this new shop in Covington. It's a very exciting effort. I know we had some ceremony for it earlier this year, but you guys are really becoming, like a hot spot there. So tell us about this spot in Covington that you guys have.
We were very, very fortunate that at the very end of 2021, Corporex owned a gravel lot. It was just a gravel lot for 20 plus years along Madison Avenue in the downtown business corridor. And Corporex, along with Corporex founder Bill Butler, said that is going to be the location for the Samaritan Car Care Clinic, to have its own dedicated shop. Incredibly fortunate that the Catalytic Fund, the Catalytic Development Fund of Northern Kentucky, we were able to present this idea of creating the region's very first dedicated nonprofit vehicle repair shop to the Catalytic Fund. And Jean Schroer and her board said, that is neat. We know the need is there. We know that access to affordable and reliable transportation is one of the single greatest barriers that these families face on their path to self-sufficiency. So we were able to have a construction loan to borrow the money to build the building. So the land was a grant, and we offer our absolute thanks for that. So to your listeners and viewers, we do have a mortgage that we need help paying back for. But yes, so we actually have, we just received last week the final certificate of occupancy from the city of Covington. So here before the beginning of August 2023 is our plan to be able to open the region's very first dedicated nonprofit vehicle repair shop.
Yes. Well, congratulations. I know it has been a long time coming and a lot of work. Like you said, you guys have been doing this for, over a decade.
As volunteers for 16 plus years.
Yeah. So tell us, over the course of your time in doing this, you guys have helped a lot of people, but you've said there's a lot of need. Tell us some of the things that you've learned and that you're still learning in this journey.
Well, that's an insightful question. We're definitely still learning. One of the phrases I use, Sarah, from time to time is I'm still trying to figure out how to crack the funding code. We have had tremendous support, and I absolutely celebrate that, from some major foundations, and we offer thanks. That's how we were able to help so many families last year. We helped 315 families last year. As I shared, 70% were single moms. We had to turn away over 100 because of funding challenges or funding limitations this year. We've been able to help just under 130 families so far, first half. But I've had to turn away over 135 requests for help. Right. Everyone's a compelling story. So what are we learning? We're learning that there is this unmet need to try to help these families continue to stay on the path to financial independence. There's definitely a gap in knowledge. So one of the things that we have done, and will be able to do more frequently now that we have our own location, is we host fundamentals of car maintenance classes. We've done this with Brighton Center, with Lincoln Grand Scholar House, with St. Lydia's House, which is an agency over in the Norwood area of Cincinnati, because we're not trying to turn these ladies into mechanics, but it's to have an appreciation. This is why you need to have your oil changed. This is why you need to check your tire pressure so that you then don't get stranded.
Yeah.
So what are we learning? We're learning that the need is great, and we continue to try to build fundraising skills.
Yeah, I think that idea of like education is so important. As a young millennial woman, I know absolutely nothing about cars. I did share that before. I will say that a couple weeks ago, the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to anybody ever happened to me. I ran out of gas when I was driving, and I know that is not as extreme as what these women and these families are facing. But I think there is that knowledge gap. I was still stranded. I still had to get a stranger to help me push my car to the gas station, and that was humbling in a lot of ways.
Now, for example, that very point, that's one of the things I share in these classes. Believe it or not, Sarah, that's very hard on the fuel pump in your car because the engineers who design electric fuel pumps now, they're in your gas tank. So viewers and listeners, just a hint, don't drive your car until that low fuel warning light comes on. The reason why is the fuel pump is now out of the fuel. Now it's surrounded in a cage. It's not like the motor sitting there whirring away at the fuel. But the engineers count on the fuel to cool the electric motor. So if you repeatedly run your fuel low, that motor is simply operating out of the fuel that cools it. So it gets hot. All electric motors fail faster the hotter they run.
Well, what you guys are doing, like you said, and like I said, also, you're filling this need in the community that is so, so vitally important. You've mentioned a couple of times there is that call to action. You guys do need assistance when helping other members of our community. So for our viewers and listeners today, how can people get involved? How can people help support your mission?
Well, one of the greatest needs / opportunities is simple financial support. We do, and I'm incredibly thankful to offer to share. We do have a good group of volunteers who help do some of our maintenance events where we're just doing oil changes. But we also have, now that we have our own location, a couple of retired mechanics who found out about the clinic and go, "What you're doing is incredible. Can I come down and oversee? Not oversee, wrong word. Help a few days a week." And who oversees that is this tremendous senior mechanic, veteran mechanic, Jim Dennis, who's joining the shop here in just a couple of weeks as the senior mechanic. And so we don't need more volunteers at this point. What we need are financial contributions. We need support to be able to help the families that can stay on that path to financial independence. Your listeners and viewers, many of whom have businesses, they're employers here in Northern Kentucky. It'd be interesting if we could have a direct feedback. How many people have you had as employees miss work because of problems with their car?
Right.
And so that's what we hear. And so one of the many seeds we're trying to plant is to see whether or not some of those medium to larger size employers would say, look, we're very interested in a subscription type service. Maybe the employee does not need to know that Company X is supporting the repairs, but we've got to figure out a way, because after childcare breakdowns, transportation breakdowns, that's number one. Number two.
Yeah, and in this world where we're seeing more increased need from a lot of people because, we're seeing soaring inflation costs and a multitude of other issues that are really putting pressure on our lower income families and people who are trying to, make ends meet every month. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of increased need. I know a lot of our local nonprofits have.
Right. Yes. The one reason why we have so many agencies that are now, it's more than a dozen, referring their clients to the Samaritan Car Care Clinic is because they're seeing increased requests for help. They're seeing increased demand. And that's the reality for your listeners and viewers. We can't keep up. We have tapped into this unmet need to help with safe and reliable transportation. The other piece part, we have a wonderful partnership with Gateway Community College here in Northern Kentucky. Not only on a referral basis, Gateway does outstanding work through its Ready to Work program, trying to help low-income single parents, the vast majority are low-income single moms, who are, once again, they're trying to better their lives. And they have clunkers of cars, and they're trying to get, Gateway's trying to figure out how do we help these people stay on that path to financial independence. So we receive a tremendous number of inbound referrals from Gateway. This lady needs help, and we do the best we can. The other thing that Gateway does, of course, is they're a great training site. So we are partnering with Gateway for a low-income student who aspires to be a mechanic but can't afford the tools. That's one of those barriers to that career, right? You don't have a barrier if you want to go to a fast food restaurant, but you do have a barrier if you aspire to be a mechanic and you can't buy the tools.
Right.
So the Samaritan Car Care Clinic is also a co-op training site for a student.
But Bruce, before I let you go, because I know you probably have a busy day, is there anything else you would like to share with our viewers and listeners?
Well, one, it's a thank you again. But two, you have afforded me this opportunity to share again. I'll reinforce. We've tapped into this unmet need. And so the viewers, listeners here of the Chamber podcast, it's an opportunity to say that is a very direct hand up. There's a need for handout. Someone's facing food insecurity. They need food. What we try to do is this hand up. These families, by and large, are trying to help themselves, better themselves, but they face this barrier. They need tires. They need brakes. And the social service agencies where they go to do laudable work, fantastic work. Where do they go for transportation help? And time and again, the one and only is the Samaritan Car Care Clinic. So we're beyond pleased to partner with these agencies. We just need help from your viewers and listeners, Sarah.
Yes. Well, Bruce, how can people get in contact with you or with the organization to help out?
Good news is we do have our own website, SamaritanCarCare.org. Clinic was getting a little long, so we did drop that. But yes, we actually have SamaritanCarCare.org website. Like most nonprofits, you can actually select, donate, that kind of a thing. At the encouragement of some very open, like-minded donors, we actually can receive Zelle donations to the clinic as well. Information on that is on our website. And you can actually do the Contact Us link on our website. Email comes into me, Bruce Kintner, and we'd gladly add you to our newsletter list. We send out newsletters each quarter. Going to be sending out our June newsletter here within another 2 weeks. And it just profiles who we help, what we do, and that, wow, is there a need?
Yeah. Well, Bruce, thank you so much again for being on the podcast. We appreciate you and the work you're doing in our community.
Sarah, thank you again so much.